Welcome back to Press Pass. And Lloyd Onyango says, as he follows a conversation, the media let Kenyans down. What accreditation did they need to air results that were captured even by phones? You could probably explain that as I look for something else in terms of what people are...
Yeah, I think accreditation in terms of accessing the counting hall and being there, present, when the results are being announced, not waiting to be told later by an agent of a party that this is what was announced. You can only go with what you have heard yourself or seen yourself. It is as simple as that. The interesting thing is that even many of the major political players, particularly NASA, did not have agents in very many of those places.
Well, that's what they said in the in the court case. I mean, it was being told, we were being told they had agents in like 92% of polling stations. But I think there's a bigger point here. I mean, the system and the Court of Appeal went through the process of where it's supposed to happen, the High Court actually, and it said that it's supposed to be announced publicly, put up publicly, you know, where people can see it, so you don't need accreditation to get to it. You know, and then it is transmitted to Nairobi. So if they were transmitting results that they have not put up publicly, they have not announced them publicly, because that putting up is the announcement. You're not just to announce to agents who you've been counting with, you know. Then I think there's a big issue, and that probably might be part of the reason why this whole thing was annulled. You know, but I think there is, if I may just jump to what we had said before on Mushero's statement. It's important to note that what he was talking about was tallying, and in essence, what he was telling guys, it's okay for you to get the numbers. It is not okay for you to add them up. It's not okay for you to say what the sums are. You know, and as Macharia said during the break, I mean, again, the High Court had agonized over this and had told us, you know, there's a difference between announcing results and declaring. And the IEBC's mandate is to declare who the winners are and the official results. But anybody can do mathematics, and there's no law that stops you saying this plus this equals this. Okay. You know, entirely. One third point is I think the media, by the way it behaved on this election, has opened itself to accusations of collusion. I think the fact that no single media house till today has announced those results. You know, Macharia says you wanted to, and it wasn't your call, but it seems in very many media houses it wasn't their call. So has there been an agreement amongst all these media houses simply not to do it? Wouldn't be the first time we've suspected collusion amongst our media. And I think that the worst accusation here would be you're colluding in the stealing of the election, by exactly by not reporting it. You know. So
what if just
and I think, and I'm not saying that that's exactly what happened. I'm saying it's out there. We've got to deal with it, and we've got to understand that every time this happens. When we had 2013 and you have silence, you come to 2017, you have silence, that creates an impression. And that actually really harms the media itself. Because then, I mean, the space within which it operates is a space that is bought for and paid for by the rest of us. You know? And if it's not, they're not seen to be essentially doing that which we are creating the space for, then it becomes likely that when government eventually goes after media, as it always does, that you might find that the public is less likely or is a bit reluctant to stand up for you because you never stand up for them.
Right. Yeah. Should we retract then perhaps in the with the next round and possibly look at other more feasible ways of getting these numbers and being able to follow through somewhat independently? It's still the IEBC numbers, but follow through independently, perhaps the collaboration you were mentioning.
Yes, and just before I talk about that collaboration, I think it's also fair that we give credit where media has attempted to do a good job. And part of it is that with this election, because in previous elections and election coverage, media has been accused of bias, you know, open bias, where, you know, they seem to favor a particular candidate or party based on the amount of time or space that they allocate to various, you know, to various candidates. But and there is empirical data to support that with this particular election season, there has been a very deliberate attempt to ensure that there is proportionate allocation in terms of time, in terms of space. Now, one could argue, the discourse around, that coverage, that's the second level. But in terms of space allocation and in terms of time, there has been a very deliberate attempt to balance, so that on one day, one particular candidate leads, for example, the TV broadcast. On the following day, it's somebody else, and in terms of time, they're given more or less equal amount of time.
Yes.
So that is something that's commendable. What lessons can we learn going forward as we get into the next election? I think we need to appreciate that media has a second chance to redeem itself, and to retain its position, amongst the public or within the public sphere, so that then we don't get lost. And part of it is, I am sure that there are many conversations taking place in newsrooms, internally, and also within the media stakeholders forum on what are the lessons that we can learn from how we have covered this election. And one of the ways that this could actually be done is media working collaboratively, because we've seen them work collaboratively in other areas where it mattered. So that the questions about fatigue that Macharia is raising, if all the media houses came together and deployed, reporters or agents across the 290 constituencies and in the 47 counties, and when that report is given, it is shared, because you're looking at the bigger picture here. This is not just about competing and being the first one to tell the story. This is now
mostly the case.
Which is mostly the case. Right. I broke the story, and I was the first one exclusively reported. I think we need to be able, for us to redeem ourselves, we need to step back from that competitive environment and say, for the public good, and for us to be able to restore that trust that the public has bestowed on us, can we work jointly in ensuring that that election reporting is done in a way that that we can all be proud of as a media fraternity.
But there's got to be the desire to actually report these results. And for me, that's what seemed to be lacking. I mean, take the example of KTN, who conducted something they called an exit poll. Now, across the world, exit polls, the first question you ask is, how did you vote? In the entire thing, they never asked that one question. They asked them about very many other things, but not how you voted. And it seems to me, again, the fact that no media house is doing this is coming out. If we had a few that were doing it, I would say, all right, fine, perhaps. But this looks very much like collusion. It's the same way they all ran the PDU ads, which they knew to be legal, but none of them said, well, no, not really. I believe in ethics and all of this stuff.
Well, giving you the opportunity to say that on air.
So I think, again, that if the media can sort of demonstrate that there's a real desire to actually inform, and when things do go wrong, again, we don't have this blanket silence from all of them, none of them coming out to report that, there are these problems, If there's an actual desire to inform people, then I think I'd be the first one to get behind them. But for as long as that's not being displayed,
there's a place I always disagree with the Gadara. It is always you the media, you the media, you the media. And I always tell him, it's not you the media, it is we the media.
We the media.
Right? Because he has his own platform, he has his own space in some local newspapers, and he has his own news outlet. Right. And I don't see it doing any of those things he says the media should be doing. Well, secondly, I think we have here, we find ourselves in a. Yes, we made mistakes, a lot of failings, a lot of things we didn't do right, but there are also a few things we do right, and I think that is acknowledged everywhere. But we are always caught in between a rock and a hard place. First, between contending political forces, who will always blame you because they say you're not on their side. At any elections, there are forces who will be saying, you should be reporting we won. It happens all the time, without any indication that they won. They want the media to declare them the winners. They want the media to take everything they tell us and run it without question. That happens. Then, of course, we have this professional, I don't know what I would call them, gathering company. You know, people whose job is to hit out at the media.
Maybe it's the expectation that is given.
Whatever you do,
they will find feedback.
And feedback is good. Feedback I enjoy.
Yeah.
And I always say, whether internally or within discussions within various media stakeholder groups, I am one of the harshest critics of our failings. And that is why I never say you, the media. Yeah. I say we, the media.
And one day, but I wanted to also say that I think, and I'm going to appeal to the people who make the decisions based on the bottom line, that actually the ultimate supporter of the media is the people. And I feel that there was not enough trust in us, the public, because even when the media is selling space, they are selling space based on how many viewers and how many readers they have. We should have been trusted enough to be able to take these results, because eventually the media is going to use us, the public, to say this is the kind of space we have. But I think I'll go back to what Gadara said in one of his articles about the fact that the media took adverts that they were not supposed to air. So that kind of compromised them, and so it was no longer the interests of the public and the taxpayers who were at the center of the election reporting. It now became other considerations. So I would say to the business people, please think of us, because actually the space you're selling because of us. It's because we buy your papers, it's because we watch your TV that you're getting the adverts. Right. So also think of us when you're making these quote-unquote business decisions not to air the results, because eventually if the public has no trust in the media, then your ratings go down. How does that favor business? It doesn't.
Right. Given the challenges that, Gadara, let me give you an opportunity to one day to just speak a bit more. Although I'm being told by Collins, I don't know if you've sent him. Bill Collins says I'm not giving you an opportunity to speak. One day, this issue of the numbers, we will be a bit more shy in the next round in giving promises of what is clearly a big challenge to deliver. With the explanation that Macharia has given, and it's not just a mere excuse, it's what he has gotten on the ground. What would then be your expectation for this second round?
Just the same report, what he was saying, a report about what it was like to cover the election. We are here on Press Pass, which is an examination of how does the media report. And if Kenyans are listening and they are even responding, it means that they have the capacity to understand what challenges the media has to go through to report. So tell us those stories so that we can also combine those stories with the general atmosphere of the elections. Because even as I was listening to Mushero, I realized the waters were so muddied, and they were muddied at many fronts. They were muddied at IEBC preparation, at politics, at the court cases. And so even the media story needs to be part of the election story. Right. And by them keeping quiet, the Kenyan people are not able to see the whole story, including the media's part in the story. So the media should stop isolating itself and pulling itself back from the people. Let us all be part of the story. And I hope that whoever is looking at the coins will also think of it that way, that if we are together with you, then you also have your advertising space to sell. Right. But if we don't trust you, how does that augur for the media down the line? And I know I'm supposed to be talking about public good, and I really make noise about looking at the money, but it's also a good business decision, if you ask me.
True. And we'll get into a bit more of this. Again, Bill is on my case for taking breaks. I have to. Before 11, I have to take 2 breaks. Then we'll go on with the conversation after this. Stay with us.